acceptable at this time of night.
Yes. Good evening, and welcome to a very special video after movie diner. And it's incredibly special, not only because it is the joyous time of year and because we're on this wonderful contraption known as the television or the computer, but it is incredibly special because I have with me my cohort, Mal, who you will have heard on previous podcasts discussing such wonderful things as the entire 22 film run of James Bond. And we are here at this joyous time of year to discuss, with our ties and flat caps in place, the latest installment of the James Bond franchise. That's right, I used the word franchise. Skyfall. Say hello, Mal, and introduce yourself to the wonderful viewing and listening several.
Good evening, everybody. It's lovely to be here with you this evening. Me in my small house in Surrey, and John in his mansion in the middle of Central Park. Brought on, of course, by the inevitable fame from the After Movie Diner. It's lovely to be back to talk about more Bond. I think for those of you who listened to all 4 hours of us last year, the prospect of us doing this again must seem daunting, and we hope that the flat caps ameliorate that concern.
Indeed. And not only that, but instead of 22 films, we just have the one. But while it may be the one, I felt that Skyfall, in its makeup and design, was actually more like 4 movies wrestling for space in some sort of large sack. And we will discuss that further as the evening goes on. But I would like to wish you and yours a very happy Beardmas, sir, and a happy new beard.
Well, it's very kind of you, sir. As you can see, I've been working on my preparations for Beardmas. There's no sparkly lights or anything.
No.
We just have the proper preparation as one should do.
Exactly.
And I'd like to return that similar sentiment and wish you a very merry beard and a beardy new year.
Yes, of course. A beardy new beard, as I like to say. But that's all wonderful. Even though it's not a new beard, but in a way, when the clocks turn, it becomes fresh and vibrant again, as once when it was young. So that's very nice.
It's almost as if it's in preparation for the spring growth.
Indeed, for the surge, as I like to call it. So.
It's not what I call it.
Okay.
But I like to call it.
Yes. So, what was I saying? I completely and utterly forget. But yes. So I hope everyone can hear us. I hope everything is working fine and looking good. Yes, we're going to discuss Skyfall. I was intrigued. You had seen this, sir, and then I actually saw this twice myself after you, because, of course, they release these things later in America, because the Queen decrees it, I presume. And, yeah, of course. And, yes, and you wanted to discuss it, and I was elated that you wanted to discuss it. And I was even more elated later on after an email correspondence that, indeed, you had similar feelings to myself. Unlike the previous Craigs, where we were in our own way divided, this one we seem fairly similar. So why don't you set us off, sir, and let us know what you thought of the film?
Well, first things first, I'm intrigued by your analogy of 4 angry animals in a bag. I'd like to see how that ties together a little bit later on, with evidence from certain scenes of the film. I'm looking forward to that later, during which I'll try to avoid pulling too many faces. Skyfall itself, I saw it probably, a month ago now it was released, and I only saw it the once, and I left the cinema thinking, I need to sit down and discuss this movie, because there's a lot of raving about it, there's a lot of hype about it. I think I've been more excited about it than any other Bond film for I have no idea how long. Probably because I spent quite a lot of time at Pinewood Studios last year, so I got to see some of the sets and I got to see some of the build-up and what was going on. And I tried to avoid reading all the hype about it, but you can't avoid it unless you go and lock yourself in a Badger set in Venezuela. You're going to get some of the hype that goes with it. But I tried to shy away from it and just go, it's gonna be a film. It's gonna be great. And that's the
Please let
mentality
it be
with
a
which I
film.
went to the cinema to see Skyfall. And then I left the cinema afterwards thinking something's gone wrong. I was expecting this, and it turned out to be this, and I need to sit down in the diner and I need to talk this over, which is where my first email came from to you saying we need to have a chat. I didn't in any way envisage that it would be 11:30 at night in my front room wearing a tux, a silk scarf, a bow tie, and a flat cap. But these are the way things work out. And generally, they work out for the best.
They do. Well, it's the way gentlemen do it. It's the way two old wily dogs such as you and me do it, sir. And I feel like success can only breed from it. And that's why, indeed, we're here today. My feeling was I went into the cinema. I saw this on its opening night in New York City. In fact, I saw it. They do this ridiculous thing now where they cheers, where they a movie gets released on a Friday, but then it has a preview night on a Thursday, and then it has a midnight preview on the Wednesday. But it's Thursday morning, but whatever. So what they're able to do is for their opening weekend count not just Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday, but count Wednesday all the way through. So it's a bit of a cheat. But I saw this midnight on a Wednesday in New York on the IMAX, the big old. In fact, one of. Sorry.
On Max von Sydow?
Yes, I saw it in Max von Sydow's front room.
Excellent.
Yes.
How is he?
He's fine. He has difficulty seeing too well because he's a very short man, and with all those people in his living room, he was jumping up and down at the back going, "Let me see the film! I cannot see the film!" And it was...
Some of the eye makeup from Flash Gordon did him some permanent damage.
Yes, it did. And in fact, that little mustache that he wore as Ming, most of it gets lodged down his throat. So he talks in a very weird, high-pitched way now.
Oh, well, that must be very difficult for him.
Yes, I don't suppose he went through the proper training, the sort of 6 months that one needs to maintain and wear such a proud man growth. And because of that, I think he just wasn't equipped to handle it. And as I said, lots of esophagus tangling and so on has caused permanent damage.
It must be difficult for him because he had such a respected classical voice. A very similar thing happened to me. Before I swallowed a garden spade, I used to be a trained soprano.
Yes, indeed. Except the shovel for our American watchers got lodged and now causes Mal's infamous and famous and genius baritone.
I'm not going to sing a note.
No, okay.
No.
So I went to see this film, as I said, on Max von Sydow, and it was an absolute packed von Sydow that evening, which was wonderful, and had a big crowd. And all I can say is this, if we go through the film piece by piece, because I feel like it's very much a film of pieces, and I'll explain my 4 animals in a bag analogy for you. I felt, because I rewatched Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace, and what I came to the conclusion of was everyone had criticised Quantum of Solace when it first came out and still continue to criticise Quantum of Solace now, and I think actually to some extent unfairly. I actually, watching them again, my reservations for Casino Royale, we're not going to go there again. But
we won't in a minute, by the way.
No, we won't.
Because I have a point that goes with it, but
okay.
Carry on.
But I saw, I think everyone went into Casino Royale thinking, okay, by the end of Casino Royale, he is Bond. Because they've set it up, he says the James Bond thing, and then the music kicks in for the first time in the whole film. But then all of a sudden, I think what threw people about Quantum of Solace is he's not yet Bond. And Quantum of Solace, by the end of it, he has worked out that, yes, he is working with the agency now. It wasn't a revenge thing. M and him now have this bond, and not to make a pun, but, and then everything is sort of set by the end of Quantum of Solace to be like, okay, the next one's going to be a Bond film. And I think that also what ended up happening, having seen Skyfall, is now looking at Quantum of Solace, out of the 3 that Craig has done so far. Actually, if you're going with the traditional Bond formula, Quantum of Solace, out of the 3 of them, is the most traditional Bond formula of them all. And one of the reasons why I actually like it the most out of the three, I know that makes me crazy, but that I do. I prefer Quantum of Solace out of all of them. So, because I'm a traditionalist and I like the original Bond setup and I don't think they should mess too much with the formula. When it came to Skyfall, therefore, there were a few things. It in one way, was trying to be a sequel to what had come before. Not just what had come before in terms of Craig, but what had come before in terms of the full 22 movies. It was also trying to be, much in the way that Die Another Day had tried to be a 20th film and a 40th anniversary or whatever. It was trying to be a 50th anniversary movie, so it had all that aspect to it. It was also trying to tell us a bit about his past, so there was this whole, is it a prequel, is it a sequel thing. It was also trying to say a whole bunch of stuff about, like, aged James Bond and all this sort of stuff. And while at the same time it was trying to be a Bond film with the villains and the gadgets and the la-di-da. And also, by the end of it, just like the other two, he's still not really Bond just yet. Like, so the whole thing to me was sort of a bit... the first time I saw it, I just went with it. The first time I saw it, I just went with it and I loved it. And I thought, okay, yeah, that's a really good bit. That's a really good bit. And for me, I went through the movie and it was the bits that came out of me. And I was like, I like that bit. I like that bit. I like that performance. And I like that bit of action and whatever. But on the whole, I found it very long and very choppy. It didn't really flow very well. But there were bits that I definitely enjoyed. And I thought, okay, that was worthwhile. When I saw it the second time, I definitely came out of it with like, you know what? It's trying to serve way too many masters. If I'm going to be fair to the movie, it's trying to serve way too many things. People's expectations based on the last two. It's trying to finish off the trilogy. All those things I just said. And while I think it succeeded in being a good showreel of the last 50 years of Bond, here's a bit of this, here's a bit of that, here's a bit of whatever. As a coherent film, I don't think it works on any level whatsoever.
Okay. We will build ourselves up to that. We've done the whole film in one big whack there for a second, when there's so many things that we could tear into small pieces.
True. Only so that I can establish at this point where my other comments will come in the future. That's why I've done it that way.
That's absolutely fine. I'd have to agree. I think we disagreed on Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace, famously so. And I thought that at the end of Casino Royale, he'd got to where Bond should be. He was Bond. That was okay. And then I think he went backwards a bit in Quantum of Solace because there wasn't much in the way of coherent writing. I hear what you say about it being a traditional Bond film. Okay. In that it was quite a simple plot line. It was sequential. It worked okay. Sure, no problem. So I thought, great. Building up to this one, we've got it all out of the way. This is it. Craig 3. This is going to be Craig's Goldfinger, or Craig's from Russia with Love is probably a better analogy.
Yes.
They've got the Quantum out the way. They've got the Spectre out the way. They've got no worries about there being Blofeld, because that was all quashed fairly early on. Let Craig be Bond. Let Bond do what Bond does and love it, and we're going to have a great film. But we didn't get that. And to me, that was the biggest frustration of it. I think I don't remember ever sitting through a Bond film, even possibly Moonraker, and being 30 minutes in and going, I don't like this. I'm not enjoying myself. What's going on? And I think my problem is, I got to the point where you were with Casino Royale, which is, for me, we'd gone through the Vesper, we'd gone through the Casino, and we'd gone through all of the things that had to get through to do that relaunching of the sequence, and all the plot lines, and we'd gone into the beginning of Craig 3, and we got pouty Craig.
Yep.
We got pouty Bond. And I was sat there thinking, the whole idea of Bond not enjoying being Bond comes from the Timothy Dalton License to Kill, which is fine, because in that one film it made sense. And it's a tribute to that film that they keep going back to it and going back to the idea that Bond just does it as a job, whereas the Connery Bond was clearly having a whale of a time, really enjoying himself. The Moore Bond, again, loving every second of it.
Loving every second of it completely.
The Dalton Bond didn't enjoy it for one film because his friend got eaten by a shark and he had to go rogue agent. And all of a sudden, that's now the trendy thing to be. He's this secret agent who doesn't really like what he does. He'd rather be a news agent or whatever the hell, or fight with scorpions in a bar in some remote destination. Stop pouting and be a spy again.
Yes.
Get out there and realise that you've got a job which half of Britain would kill for and the other half would kill other people to fight against you to be involved in the same storyline. Love what you do. It's like racing drivers. You remember the old Fry and Laurie sketch about a racing driver who comes off after a Grand Prix win and they say, you must have enjoyed that because you won the race. It's fantastic. And the tedious racing driver, no doubt based on Michael Schumacher, just sits there and goes, well, we had a lot of problems with the car and it was very hard. And I didn't enjoy it. It was awful. They're going, for God's sake, man, you just got to shoot up the world and shag every attractive woman in sight, and you're being paid handsomely to do so. Smile. Smile. Enjoy it. Stop moaning and drinking tequila with scorpions on your hand, you miserable git.
Yes.
So half an hour into the film, I was midway through that sort of rant, which I hadn't intended to be quite so ferocious. But still,
I quite liked it, though. Visually, it was stunning.
I imagine visually it was stunning. I did intend to have a couple of glove puppets behind me at the time, but we'll work on that for later in the...
I have puppets. I have actual puppets.
I know. My stringed instruments are over there rather than behind me. I need to move them.
But I also have puppets.
Mm.
Yes.
Well, if we do a second release of this, if we end up doing 4 hours again, I'll get the puppets in for the second half.
Okay, perfect. But yes, taking on board what you said, yes, exactly. You suddenly had, with this film, the problem I've had with Craig, to be honest, all along. In fact, I would still say the only one where he actually acts like a spy and actually acts like James Bond, even within a smidgen, is Quantum of Solace. And I actually now more and more and more stick by that film. But with this one, like, you have the opening sequence, which is an action scene, not only okay, the first thing that pissed me off about the opening action scene, we have seen action scenes filmed in that place a million times, that Grand Bazaar. It's in the International, the Clive Owen film. It's in it's in the latest. It was even in Taken 2. I'd just seen it in Taken 2, not 2 months previously. And the thing about Bond is it always took you to these places that you'd never seen before. All of a sudden, it's a place I've seen 50 times in lots of different movies. And I'm just thinking to myself, what, have they really filmed every corner of the earth? They couldn't find somewhere else to do an elaborate bike chase? You know,
Yes, they have. That's it. They've covered it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to mention the fact that the bike chase features possibly some of the shonkiest CGI since Die Another Day. So
Yes.
that was a little problem. But that aside, because I understand that they wanted to look like Craig is doing all his own stunts, and they don't want to do what they did back in the Roger Moore days and just film a stuntman and go, no, it's Roger Moore, seriously.
Yes. Yeah. Cut to him smoking a cigar. Cut to actually something happening and it's someone else. Cut back. I'll have ice in there. Yeah, okay.
Right, exactly. But there's a certain charm to that the Craig ones just don't have. So, so that was my main problem. But I thought, okay, fair enough. I said, stop being a whining Winnie, sit back and enjoy it. And I was watching the action sequence. I was like, oh, okay, bikes and things and whatever, on top of the train. It's all very exciting, okay. And then you had the diggers and the whole bit. And I thought, okay, now they're showing me that they want to sell VW Beetles. Oh, wait, they've worked in the word VW Beetle into the script because, you know, we learnt nothing from the Casino Royale watch scene. So I was like, okay, look, put that to the back of your mind, John. Just keep watching it. It's just an action film. Accept it. Oh, a glimpse of his watch. We haven't had that since Casino Royale. Good, excellent. I'm glad he's still wearing a Mega. So this went on and on and on. Then there was a sort of Brosnan moment where he did his cuffs when he jumped down on the thing, which I'm like, well, you know, fair enough, that's fine, a bit of a nod to the past, I suppose. But like you say, because it's on Craig, the miserable Bond, it doesn't come across as suave or happy or cool. It only comes across as suave, happy or cool if he's suave, happy and cool. If he's miserable, you know, it doesn't really work. It just works to kind of nod to what came before. Then you have, you know, him falling into the water and miraculously surviving and all the rest of it and blah, 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 blah. You know, at which point I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. Then you have this long, drawn-out period where you've got to watch him, like, do his test again and, you know, exercise and all this stuff. And I'm like, get on with it, you know. Because at no point at the end of all that testing and quizzing are they going to go, no, I'm sorry, you're not fit for duty. Go sit on a beach. Like, that's not going to happen. Of course he's going to go out into... So, for example, right, MI5 gets blown up. He sees it on CNN in some bar. He should then, at that point... Sorry?
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, we're going to spoil the whole fucking thing, so don't worry about it.
Oh, yeah. Good and proper.
Good and proper. He sees it on the TV. Dalton, first plane back to England. He would have been there, gun in hand. I don't need training. Fuck you. Where do I go? Point me at the person I've got to kill and off I go. Craig, on the other hand, has to sit around looking like a basset hound being smacked in the arse while everyone walks around him going, what are the psychological implications of Bond being older? I don't care. Get on with it. And this went on and on and on. Then he went to Asia, right, where he's swanning around some casino and there's Komodo dragons and God knows what else. In the most tedious casino scene in any Bond film, even when the fight does come up, it lasts about 3 seconds. And I'm like, I can't believe I've watched all this setup just to have this boring conversation, some not very interesting flirting with people we know are going to become Moneypenny, and all this just to set up, Javier Bardem's character is really, really spooky and scary, by the way. Oh, he's going to have everyone killed. Oh, it's like, we understand he's playing the bad guy. We understand he's a bad guy. We go in with that preconceived. So this whole thing rolled on and on and on and on. And then you got... You got to the island where he is, the island of Dr. Camp, and I have to say, if it wasn't for Javier Bardem's, you know, top draw performance, the whole thing would have been a shambles.
Okay, I'm going to roll you back a little bit because there's bits and pieces there where I agree, and there's bits and pieces where I don't. There's things like the cufflinks, the little bits there. I was one of the people in the cinema who, when Brosnan was under the water in the speedboat, straightened his tie and carried on, I went, yay!
Yeah, me too.
It wasn't filmmaking. It wasn't, a brilliant plot line. It was nothing more than a nod to the audience going, I rock. But I still went, yay!
No, I loved it too. I loved it too.
It was the same, I don't know what that means.
I said I loved it. I loved it too.
Good. It was the same thing with the cufflinks. I did really enjoy that. And if I had a rotating one, I'd be wearing it. So I enjoyed that side of it. But, yeah, it took a long time to get going. There were good bits, actually, during the training session at MI thing, where the psychological test was a good bit of dialogue. It was quite nicely written. He was asked to provide the next word, bitch. That was quite well done. I enjoyed that. The whole shaky shooting hand. He spent 3 months drinking tequila on a beach. And if he wasn't a lousy shot, he wasn't that bad a shot afterwards. So it's a bit of a feeble section for me. But yeah, you say go to China and... go to this casino. At no point was I there thinking, this is the Orient. This is his new location, or Macau, wherever it's supposed to be. Primarily for the fact that I'd driven my car past that set in Pinewood, because it was filmed in the paddock tank. And they had all the exterior of the casino was all in the paddock tank. So there was no Orient about it. that's a little unfair. I had a slightly privileged view of it, but I was still looking at it thinking, those Komodo dragons. Can't make up my mind whether it was CGI or not. But I thought there was CGI in that bit that irritated the life out of me.
Well, also because there was no establishment. For example, when Moore fights the crocodiles in Live and Let Die, first of all, we know that crocodiles eat humans. That's fine. Secondly, Teehee throws meat at the crocodiles and they go ravenous for the meat to begin with. So you're like, okay, there's actual peril here. I have no idea what a Komodo dragon is capable of. No knowledge of what a Komodo dragon can do or not. So there was no peril until they grabbed the leg of the bad guy, dragged him off, and I was like, oh, is that it? Oh. And it was all a bit...
Yeah, I'm with you there, because I was there going, surely you just, pat them on the head and they'll go away.
Right.
They're fine. Just, chuck them some fish, they're all right. But, apparently they're lethal. I have no idea. But, Komodo dragons, not convinced by that whatsoever. But it was, as you say, the first half hour being a bit of a problem. Because at the end of that first half hour, I wanted to leave the cinema. And in a Bond film, that's very, very upsetting.
Yes, I completely...
I know you put the puppet on, so let's let you do the puppet thing. Go on.
Hello!
And what's this guy's name?
I don't know. I just thought I'd do a puppet very quickly, just to say hello, and I didn't like Skyfall much either. Goodbye! Sorry about that. I just thought I'd show everyone my new puppet, which is a camel. As you do. As you do, that was my Christmas present. So we were talking about, yes, the Komodo dragon sequence and all that. Yeah, I just thought there was a lot of sequences in this movie that were meant to make me think. This was the other problem I had. It was meant to make me think, and it was setting me up to think, Craig had now suddenly been at it for years. Like Craig... It was talking about Bond as if Bond was 50, right? As if Bond was over the hill. But I'm like, Casino Royale, which was his first mission, was only 2 films ago. You have to explain to me that time has passed if you're saying that Craig is suddenly playing the Bond that we've been watching for 50 years, when he hasn't been playing the Bond we've been watching for 50 years. He's playing the Bond we've been watching for 5 years.
Are you suddenly suggesting that he's gone from being... the young new Bond to the Piles version of Roger Moore?
Yeah, well, that's what they were trying to suggest in the script. Yeah. Like, this was a script that they dusted off that was meant for old Sir Roger of the Moor, but instead... And at no point, and I've watched it twice now, at no point is there a bit of dialogue that even explains this.
No.
So I was like...
It is not explained. We'll get into little bits about what is explained. And while you have a camel friend who has that opinion, I also have a friend that I've obviously carefully prepared. I'm not. I don't hate Skyfall, but it was like all right. So there we go. It's professionally done.
I don't know what I've heard.
I need more stuff in my living room.
Sorry, I live in
That's not going to cut it.
I live in a world full of bonkers stuff.
No, the first one I was wrong. It was the first half hour had me very annoyed. Bond was old. Bond was irritable. Bond was pouty. There was really nothing to make me think that this was going to be Craig 3, the return of non-emotionally twisted Bond. Mm-hmm. This was just going to be the same old tortured, miserable twat that you could accept in Casino Royale because that's what the plot needed. He needed to have an emotional edge. Fine, no problem. You disagree, I don't. It's the way it is. It got a bit questionable and confusing in Quantum of Solace. Let's move on. It's clean slate. There's no Vesper, there's no Quantum, there's no crazy secret organization. Let's get on with it and make an action film. Nope. new. We're just going to have Bond with a shaky hand going, I'm too old for this shit. It just turned into Danny Glover from Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
What happened?
The film seriously lacked an editor. It really seriously lacked an editor. Go, no, we don't need that scene. Get it out, Gov. No, that was pointless. Don't know why you shot that. No, that was a waste of 10 mil right there. It really needed someone to tear the guts out of it. But see, to me, the entire movie is typified by the overt reaction to the Adele song. Everyone went apoplectic for that tedious, monotonous, drony, repetitive dirge of a song sung by a woman who has, if she's apparently this great singer, I can't hear it because she has really bad breathing problems while singing, which is the first thing that really good singers need to get rid of. But she takes breaths in the middle of sentences and all sorts of things that destroy any kind of impression of her being a good singer. But anyway, whatever. But just like everyone was like, oh my God, the new Adele song, I must rush out and buy it and rub it all over myself and bathe with it, and whatever they were doing in England. Like, it was going madly up the charts. In fact, if there was a chart above the charts, it would have busted that ceiling into that and gone danced around in the new charts. But it was insanely popular. And then this movie was the same thing. The movie came out. It was fine. It was absolutely fine. There was plenty of bits in it that were like whiz, bang, wallop, whatever, that people could get excited about. But ultimately, it was also a big, long, 2.5 hour, repetitive, tedious thing that really needed to be trimmed down and injected with a bit of John Barry and injected with a bit of, excitement.
Well, you've got me into the song now, and plus you've started pulling out props, and you've got me feverishly looking around my sparse living room thinking, what the hell can I pull out next? I do have one which may help. I'm just going to grab that now. Which is, I liked the song.
Yes.
Because I like it, because my ears have fallen off. The zombies from Dead Snow have their opinion.
Yes.
I can't stand Adele. I think she's got the musical talent of anaesthetised rhino. And all of her songs appear to be auto-tuned beyond belief. So when I heard she was doing the Bond song, I was distraught. And then when I heard the Bond song, I was distraught. Really, really quite upset. It was a pathetic attempt. Bond songs, whether they're fast-paced, exciting songs or whether they're ballady songs, they should be exciting with a positive, thrilling kind of look towards them and get you livened up for what you're about to experience. They shouldn't be whiny shit.
Yes, I quite agree, sir. I quite agree.
So that's the song dealt with. Please God, let's never hear that replayed on the British radio for the 89th time.
Yes, I lived through the summer of Bryan Adams with everything I do it for you. I do not wish to live through a summer of Adele. But yes, to bring in some positive points, we've got up to the point where we introduce Silver, which is played by Javier Bardem, and he was this movie's bait and switch in the sense of, or magic trick, in the sense of the movie was going, look over here, Javier Bardem being camp and amusing and, like a sort of slightly weird Spanish Hannibal Lecter. Look over here, look over here, look over here. Meanwhile, the film over here makes no sense, makes no sense. Like, it was the old, look at the performance. Meanwhile, nothing that's going on makes any sense. Because if he's a guy who can sit on an island with nothing, I don't even know where he gets electricity from or gas or, whatever. But anyway, if he's on an island with absolute...
That's the first thing you thought of. I wonder what his utility bills are.
No, I'm saying, okay, ignore that.
The water smells strangely of chlorine.
What I'm saying is there are practical elements to having that hideout. But all that being said, that's not what I was thinking. You set up him as this big cyber criminal, right? Which, by the way, any movie that uses cyber criminals or computers or anything like that as the crux of its narrative, or the crux of its threat in the case of Skyfall, has one major issue on its hands, which Skyfall also has. And that is, someone sitting behind a computer pressing buttons and blowing things up ceases to be interesting after the first time they've done it. But also, if he can sit in a remote island where nobody knows where he is and nobody knows who he is and blow things up and influence parliaments and influence agencies and influence intelligence and all this sort of stuff, if he can do all that without ever being seen, right? What's the point? So they have to crowbar in this whole thing. Oh, he wants to get M. So wait a minute. He can blow up M's building, right? But then he wants to get... he then makes sure M's not in the building, makes sure she sees it, sends her a bunch of confusing... Like, all of it is very, very... at a certain point, Javier Bardem has to go from, I am a cyber criminal who, even when I'm in a plexiglass prison a la fucking Hannibal or one of those Hannibal Lecter movies, Silence of the Lambs, rather, even when he's in there... How exactly does he break into MI6? Like, that was never explained. But then he suddenly has to become this military guy who can, like, slip into disguises and run away. And then suddenly he's got millions of guys in army gear that can jet around the countryside and have helicopters and guns. And what does he need to do all that for if he can sit in a room and blow something up with a computer? None of it, like, it...
Okay. If we're going to address the issue of the bad guy in this, there's a bad joke alert for a start. There's a moment where he says that between 88 and 96 he was M's favourite agent, which is essentially between the enormous gap they had between License to Kill and GoldenEye. Oh, well, how amusing. We're going to make jokes out of production and legal issues. Rolling in my comfortable cinema seat, you fucking idiots. But having said that, if we do have to talk about the villain, and
who I'd like to add quickly while you gargle your wine.
Javier Bardem.
Yes, I'd like to add very quickly that I really liked his performance. I'm just poking holes in his character.
Yeah, no, I'm getting to that, and I think that may have overwhelmed my gargling joke. But Javier Bardem was one of the strongest parts of the film. There is no doubt. I haven't watched much of the stuff that he's done before. I haven't seen many of his films. And he was superb. And even the scenes with Daniel Craig and Javier Bardem, the Daniel Craig Bond cheered up. The Daniel Craig Bond became better because he was working opposite a decent villain. And so the whole film picks up because you've got a good guy with a blonde wig pretending to be potentially homosexual. I don't know. We're never quite given any more details than that. But the scene with him and Bond at the beginning is a brilliant scene. Fabulous, well scripted, well acted, and Daniel Craig all of a sudden seems to be an awful lot happier.
All done in one take.
Yeah, love it. Got to be happy with that. Really enjoyed it. So Javier Bardem, absolutely superb. Not going to knock his performance. Not going to go into of it because otherwise you're kind of blaming him for the overall problems that existed within the film. So. Yeah, I can't knock him. I think he was one of the big strong points for me.
Definitely a strong point. And I liked him throughout. As a performance, as a character. Now, does it draw heavily from the psychos of the past? Yes. But the whole cyanide face thing, pardon me, with the belching, the tooth and the chin and the cheekbone pulling out thing, that was spectacularly creepy and weird. However, I still don't understand how he gets out of MI6. And that's my problem with...
Hell no.
Right, but that's my problem with computers. You introduce computers and you're basically saying, you know what, even if it's not actually possible on a computer, let's just say it's possible and move on. It horn-swaggling nonsense. Bunker.
Well, yes, as a technological geek, that's my job. That's what I am. You see computer viruses representing pretty pictures on a screen because that makes it easier for the audience to understand you. They're going, this is all bollocks. And Bond's suddenly going, look, I can see a tube station in the code. Ha ha ha. No, it's horseshit. So that part of it, again, didn't necessarily bother me because they had to make something illustrative because of the whole computer villain.
No, I think my problem with it is that everyone came out of it saying how wonderful it was, and I was like, but it seemed to be the whole thing of there was enough in it that when you came out you thought you'd seen a great film, but when you actually looked into it, the script is in places spectacularly patchy. The film needs an editor like something rotten. None of the computer stuff makes any sense at all. I don't care how good you are on a computer. None of it makes a lick of sense. Not even, and they've got to watch this. They've got to watch this because the more the generations get into knowing what a computer is capable of, you can't start saying that a computer can suddenly do all this other fucking stuff and I can upload this to YouTube in a minute and do all this and whiz bang bollop and nonsense. You can't go, I can blow this up because I can press this and do the gas mains and the thing and I've got a big room full of wires and shut up, nonsense. You've got to, it's lazy writing. Now, they focused on the dialogue, thankfully. The dialogue throughout the movie was great, but the plot was horseshit and the scenes were horseshit. But like I say, there was this gloss, there was this, oh, it's Sam Mendes. And then there was this dialogue that was really, really well written. And once the Javier Bardem and Judi Dench and Albert Finney and the like are on screen, exceptionally well delivered because you have three supreme actors backing up one pouty-faced, big-eared, basset hound-faced goon. So, it helped. It helped. And then you have, of course, our friend Ralph Fiennes, who showed up, who I have to say, I liked his character because at first he's portrayed as a slumpy old bureaucrat and all of a sudden he's got his gun in his hand, he's taking bullets for M, he's doing the whole bit. I liked that. I thought that was good. But that whole shootout in the thing was filmed exceptionally badly. That whole shootout where Javier Bardem finally comes into the government office where M is being grilled by the minister and the whole bit and blah, 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 and he just guns down a bunch of people and then the fire extinguishers are let off, which, the smoke in the room, all that whole scene was filmed in a way where I was like, sorry, who's shooting at who and what's going on? Which, look, if you want to show chaos, I understand. That scene in reality would be chaos. But I'm sorry, when you watch it on a cinema screen, I have to know what's going on. Sorry, but I do. So that was an issue. But the other issue is you could plan, I believe, if I'm going to extend my suspension of disbelief, if I'm going to extend that to believe that Bardem could do any of this crap, he can do everything, but know that M is going to be at that tribunal when she is and where that tribunal is going to be held.
Right, okay. You're more into the technical details of filmmaking than I am. At that point, by the time I got to that point, I'd started to enjoy myself. I started to go, there's some actiony stuff going on here, there's some good dialogue, I'm having some fun. So I wasn't looking for holes in editing or camera angles or anything like that. It was more to me the fact that the plot at that point was dragging its way through to a tedious, inevitable climax. And it was just the machinations and how many mistakes they made on the way to that climax. So yeah, by then, the film's okay. If it wasn't a Bond film, you'd be there going, yeah, that's great. I'm enjoying it. I'm having fun. It's not really making a great deal of sense, but I'm having a bit of a chuckle anyway. And the hero appears to have stopped being a miserable twat and is just, shooting some people for the fun of it, which is great. That's what we came to see. Shoot some people. They don't matter. They're just henchmen, Shoot them in the head. It's fine. So all was picking up at that point, except for the overbearing feeling of, I know what's going to happen. It's not a shock. I know how the film is. Well, see, about 2/3 of the way through, I had a bit of a recap in my mind, and it was a case of the film is going to end one of two ways, because you've just brought in Ray Fiennes, and thank you, and you don't bring him in to be a little bit part character, so he's got to have a role in this film, which is either he turns out to be a baddie, which doesn't really sound like that sort of film, or shock horror, he's going to take over as M. Well, that wasn't a hard conclusion to come to. How is this going to unfold? And for Judi Dench as M, that basically means she's either going to snuff it, or she's going to spend the last 20 minutes of film discussing the financial intricacies of her pension plan before toddling off in her Fiat Uno. Now, fair enough, given it's a Bond film, I didn't think that was going to happen. So therefore, about a third of the way into the film, you're there going, well, it's just started to pick up, but Judi Dench is dead.
You see now...
Sweet. When? So... Again, they'd started to make the film right, but by that stage the plot was given away and I was irritated because I knew how the film was going to end. It was going to be Silver, dead, I didn't know it was going to be in Bond's house, or with the family home. I didn't know Albert Finney was going to rock up with a shotgun because, I'd have cheered up probably if I'd known that.
Yes.
But I knew that at some point there was going to be a Dench corpse and a Fiennes guy behind the desk going, Bond, shall we go to work? Yes, sir, we'll go to work. That was how it was going to end. And so at that point, I was just ticking off the inevitable things that they had to get through to get to that point.
Yeah, you see, I had not figured that out. I had not thought about that at all. I wasn't trying to second guess the ending. I, like you, went in without really having seen too much of the trailers or the hype or the whatever. I knew that it was being exceptionally well received across the pond, but that was about it. I didn't know anything else. And in fact, I have to say, well done, the media, for not releasing the whole Scottish ending and the whole Dench dying thing.
Scottish? Let me just haul you aside one moment there. This big Scottish ending in his Scottish ancestral home was filmed approximately 8 miles from where I am now. And for you, dear American listener, that is not Scotland. I am about 350 miles from Scotland, which in American terms isn't very far. In British terms, it's about as far from Scotland as you can get. But Bond's house is on Hankley Common in Surrey, in England. Spoiler, probably of the disappointing geeky kind, sorry.
Yes. Although, to be fair, what I meant was, while I take everything on board, England, 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 what I meant was, in the movie, the Queen, in the movie... Hello! In the movie... in the movie, it's meant to be Scotland.
Yes, it is, yes.
Right.
Sorry, just got around there. Just I went walking one day and then all of a sudden there was a house in the middle of a common.
Yes. Bit of a shocker.
They've been there before.
Yes. So, it's fine. They blew it up. So it's fine. But...
along with the car!
Yes, I know.
The car! I've had it. In fact, if you want... Right, my rant about Craig Bonds, full stop. Stop blowing up Aston Martins. Send them to my house. There's the whole space in the drive. Blowing up fucking Astons. Sorry, carry on.
No, it's fine. I was just enjoying with relished glee your anger at such things, and I share your anger at such things. But what I also share, though, was your joy I'm sure, at seeing it emerge. Now, this is where I say that it becomes multiple movies. At the moment, we have the first movie is, oh, I'm old and I'm saggy and I'm buggy and I'm pouty and I'm, oh, right? The second movie is hi, I am Javier Bardem and I am a little bit creepy and a little bit gay and I touch your chest, no? And look at me, and I want to get M and shooty and the bang bang and the running around London and the subway train and oh no and the whole bit. That's the second bit. Or hello, I am Javier Bardem. I am Hannibal Lecter. Anyway, you have that. And then
half of my jaw.
Yes. Look at my jaw, it'd fall out. So then you had that. And then the third movie. See, Mal could do it without any special effects.
I'd save him a fortune.
And you have big, scary hair. So that's fine. Not at the moment, but you have had in the past.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
In the past. So, and then you get the third movie, which, to be fair, was the bit that I liked the most. I honestly believe they could have cut out most of the first 2/3 of this film, introduced Albert Finney with a shotgun. I'm happy. It doesn't matter what happens then. You introduce Albert Finney with a shotgun. You have him call him Bond a little upstart shit. You have him. You have the Aston Martin being used as the Aston Martin with the guns and the bit and so on. Before it blows up, I wouldn't have it blown up. Of course not. I would have had Albert Finney's beard save it. That's how I would have had it. I would have had the bullets pinging off Albert Finney's beard, only for him to drive. Sorry?
That's good. I like that, yeah.
Yeah, and then I would have had him get M into the Aston Martin, Finney in the Aston Martin. He leaves Bond to be killed, and then Finney and Dench go off, and then the next movie is just Finney and Dench, and Finney is fighting old people with guns and stuff like that, and a flat cap and a beard, and telling people to fuck off and stuff like that, while M is, drooling over him and being all happy.
That's a brilliant thought. I do love the idea of that film. I'm not sure I want to see a Finney and Dench torrid love scene, no. But apart from that, I'm all in for that film.
Yes. So what you do is you have Bardem and Craig. I've even forgotten his name. He's so irrelevant to the plot of this film.
Look, bloke, James. Yeah, Blake, something like that. I have no idea what he is.
Once Finney shows up, Craig wafts into the distance like a bit of farted on tissue paper, because suddenly you have an actual actor and a real man and a beard and a shotgun. You have all that on screen. Craig can't even hope to hold a candle to the farts of Finney. It just isn't possible. So for my money, I wanted, action caravanning with Finney and Dench. Driving around North Cumbria or something with a caravan on the end.
I disagree at that point, because yes, Finney's great and he wanders on, and there was talk in the early stages, I understand now, of Connery having played that character, which would have been the death of the movie. The absolute pull a gun to your own head and blow your movie brains out across the Scottish Highlands in Surrey.
It would have been the invisible car. It would have been the CGI skating off an ice floe.
It would have been that. You just brought John Cleese back complaining about that he'd been laid off and he wanted a better pension scheme. That would have been the death of that film.
What about the pension scheme?
Great casting. But at that point, Craig's gone back. He's managed to fight away from being miserable twat Bond to I know how to blow shit up Bond. And at that point, I like him. I like him at that point. I like him at the points in Casino Royale when he does the free running and when he catches the gun and he throws it back. And that's the Craig I want to see. And that's the Craig I thought I was going to see from the beginning to the end of the movie. Whereas I didn't get it for the first half of the movie. After that, picked up, all well and good. There were some jokes. Some of them were good, some of them bad, but you don't expect them to be all good with Bond. But at the point where he's booby trapping his own house, I like him. He's back to being the secret agent. He's being what I want to see. He's what I came to the cinema to see.
The whole booby trapping sequence had me for the first time in 2 hours. Let's be fair, this is at like the 2-hour mark. It had me at the first time in 2 hours actually going, yes, why, yes. Oh, and every little thing that they set, every little MacGyver thing that they set up that actually killed someone, I was like, whoa, don't fucking yes. Finney and Dench and Craig and blowing things up and woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. And, you know, then someone escorted me from the cinema and said, I'm sorry.
You too? Yeah, with me, they were bashing me with popcorn containers.
Yeah. They were like, we don't allow orangutans in here, sir. Kindly leave. When Craig appears from under the windscreen, under the dashboard of the Aston Martin, having just gunned down the thighs of the bad guys with his Aston Martin machine gun, I was like, yep, this is what I want. This is what I want. Yes, yes, more of this, more of this. And then Bardem shows up with a helicopter, blows everything up, and we've got to go back to fucking just wandering about the place, doing nothing. Ugh. Finney, on the other hand, from going from someone who looks at a bad guy square in the jaw and firing a shotgun at him, quite right too, way to go, Finney, he goes from that to being the guy that when Silver comes staggering into the church, lets him stagger in and lets him molest Dench and lets Bond and then just Bond stabs him in the back and he dies straight away. Look, people in action movies don't die straight away from one dagger in the back. You have to kill them, behead them, gut them, hang them from a thing.
This is not a horror film. Action movies, it's a bit different. Horror films, you have to mince them before they're even considered injured. Whereas, you got to remember, the last 2 Craig films, he hasn't killed the villain. The chief shot by Mr. White. Bloke in Quantum marched out into the desert, shot by his own people. In neither film has Craig killed the main villain. And in this one, he has. And it's supposed to be all tied in with he's home, he didn't necessarily go with his parents, but now he's lost his mother because she's been, wounded in a scene which he didn't really see, and all of a sudden is dying, which, again, made no fucking sense whatsoever. All of a sudden she's wandering about the place, rosy of cheek and slapping of thigh, and the next minute she's snuffed it on the chapel floor. Precious little explanation. And you see Bond cry for what, the second time in 23 films?
Yeah.
On Her Majesty's Secret Service. That's the only other thing.
Well,
That's the only other one I can do. His wife. And in this one, his supposed mother, dies.
Right.
And
what about Mathis? He gets a bit emotional in Quantum when Mathis dies.
Don't remember him crying. I remember getting a bit irate and shooting some people. Again, all kinds of good things. That's what Bond should do.
Yeah.
Gets a bit miffed. Some people are going to get shot. Exactly. That's the guy I want to see.
So I will tell you, I watched this, as I said, in a Max von Sydow cinema with 1 million people there, all of us packed in very tightly. And and I will say this, people can say that they love the film and all the rest of it, but when the Aston Martin pulled out of the garage in London and the dang-da-lang-dang-dang-dang finally played in one of these fucking movies. We've been waiting since a Timothy Dalton movie for them to use the Bond theme properly. Anyway, when that finally happened, I actually heard the audience wake up. And I'm not kidding. Like, I heard the audience finally go, oh, is something actually happening at this point? And they started to take notice. I'm not even kidding. You can tell when there's that many people in a room and everyone is focused on one thing, you can take the pulse of an audience. And I'm sorry, that audience had lost that fucking movie. Lost it. And when that happened, they got back up again.
At that moment, there's a moment there, like you said, where he unfurls the DB5 in the garage. I don't know whether the reaction is different across when you're different sides of the ocean. But in the cinema when I was there, and I had it confirmed by another friend at a different showing, but at the moment he pulled the garage door back and unveils the DB5, the car porn, the entire audience just went, oh, yeah, we're back.
Yes.
We're back. This is Bond. This is what we want.
Yes.
So it was a different noise, but it was the same sentiment. There was just, yeah.
Oh, completely. And then when he pulls out of the garage and it starts twanging away, dang, 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 at that point, people were like, yes, oh, stuff's happening and it's good. And that's what we wanted from the first scene. And the trouble is they pull out the garage, dang, 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 DB5, from that moment to the bit where all the booby traps work as they should do and kill a bunch of people, and Albert Finney's top capping people with shotguns and M's firing a handgun and the whole bit. Up until that bit, brilliant movie. That bit, I'm going to buy the DVD just for that bit, right? All the other stuff, the Shanghai stuff, the Macau stuff, tedious, completely pointless and whatever. The action scene at the beginning, I'll give it its due. It was fairly exhilarating considering it was in a scene that we've seen a billion times before. The whole Hannibal Lecter bit in London, I tell you what I liked about that bit. I liked that it was London. I liked that finally Bond was in London. And London was filmed bloody well. It was great to see some little car chases and some little foot chases and the tube and the whole bit. I loved that just because it was in London. I didn't really care about what was going on in it, but I loved that it was in London. So all the bit at the beginning felt like, I just felt like all of that was utterly irrelevant by the time the movie finished. I felt like it was an hour too long. I felt like they could have just flush that bit out. I don't care. Oh, he's old. Look, he's not going to be old for the whole movie. I know this. I know that at some point Danny Glover picks himself up and gets rid of the bad guy, even if that bad guy happens to be Jet Li and can kick 7 shades of shit out of him. So I know that at a certain point, old saggy face isn't going to be old saggy face any longer. So get past that bit. But yes, apart from that, overall, I enjoyed it. It's my second favourite Craig one. It goes for me Quantum, Skyfall, Casino, and that's how I feel about it. You can attack me or not attack me. Not you personally, but the internet audience can write comments in the box under here.
They're going to attack us? Because, otherwise I should probably hide my face.
Well, no, not actually physically attack us, but...
Because otherwise the next time in America I'm going to get recognised. But, I'm with you on a certain level of... There are great bits about the film. I liked a lot of the action. I liked... As it Bardem was superb. I liked some of Craig. I just wish they hadn't bothered with the pouty half hour at the beginning. It wasn't a question of getting through it quickly, and it wasn't... if they wanted to put it in the... It's just don't put it in the plot in the first place. Stop bothering me, Bruce. That's just gonna turn me on. Anyway... if you're not seeing split screen at the same time, you're never going to understand why I said that. But stop bothering me with pouty Craig. Get on it, make a Bond film. Make a Bond film that Connery would be proud of. That even the early Moore would be proud of. Make a Living Daylights Bond film. Make something which makes us really thrilled at the cinema. Rather than something that makes us just go, he's a bit old, he's a bit tedious. Is he going to get through it, or is he going to have a bit of a, is he going to sprain his ankle and we're going to have to watch someone else? Because, he's quite old and your ankles are probably the first thing to go. And then we're going to see him at the dentist, probably losing a couple of teeth because, he's that old. I don't care. He's Bond. Get out there, shoot people, beat up people, and win the day. Stop worrying about your emotional trauma. It's tedious. Bruce in Burn Notice is being a better spy than you are at 15 years older. Stop it. Stop with the plot lines that do that. So, yeah, I can rant for quite some time. So, yeah, next film. What I want from Craig, next film, or my whole thing, next film. No obvious lines. I don't want to be there going, oh, Ray Fiennes, I wonder what you're going to be doing. She's dead. Dead. I don't want to be watching Pouty Bond. I want to be watching Shooty Bond. Let's bring all that back in for the next film. Let's not worry about half an hour of exposition. I have to say, I didn't find it long. I know it's the second longest Bond film ever. About 2 minutes behind Casino Royale. But I didn't find it long in the cinema. I just found it irritating for parts of it. So, next film, please do what I wanted you to do with this one, which is just let Bond be Bond and enjoy his job and blow shit up and shoot people and have a great time doing it and shag every attractive woman in the Western Hemisphere and at least 6 others in the Eastern Hemisphere. Let's get on with it. Let's make another Bond film. And until then, just don't disappoint me again. Please don't disappoint Mal, because there are many men like Mal in the world, many of them tall, many of them heavily bearded, many of them with baritone voices, who, for reasons no fault of their own whatsoever, watched Skyfall and just thought, you know what, we've had enough of all this boring tosh, and what we want is some jolly good fighting and guns. So we implore you, don't give money, don't give time, give your words and tell the Bond producers what we want them to hear, which is next time, if he so much as emotes for more than 3 minutes, I'm going to come and find out where you live and smack you round the back of the head with a skillet. Okay? Yes. No, I couldn't agree with you more, Mal. I hope that the next movie we go, all right then, look, stop setting up Bond. Bond is now set up. We have a Moneypenny, we have a Q, we have an M, we have leather-bound books, we have a big fancy door, we have an office, we have the thing, we have da-da-da-da-da-da. We have it all now. He's got cars and gadgets and things like that, blah, 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 blah. Get on with it. We understand. Look, it was the 50th anniversary movie. You felt you had to do certain things. Have we been unnecessarily harsh on it? Possibly, but ultimately, or rather have I been unnecessarily harsh on it? Possibly, but ultimately I understand. It was a 50th anniversary movie, it was a sequel, it was a prequel, it was half this, it was half that, it was a third the other. We get it. It's fine. It's great. Was it the best thing ever? No. And people need to stop fucking saying that things are the best things ever. They need to just stop saying that, because it's not true. There were movies made before the year 2012, and there will be movies made after the year 2012, okay? Dark Knight Rises wasn't that good. Skyfall wasn't that good. Get over it, move on, accept the fact that not everything you see in your little 14-year-old brains is the best thing you're ever going to see. Because there is 100 years of cinema you have yet to see that I guarantee is a sight better than what you saw in Skyfall. If you want to see a good British action movie, watch any of the other Bonds that came before and include Dalton. Or if you want to see another great British action movie, watch Wild Geese. Watch something, anything but Skyfall, and say that it's the best thing ever. Because I guarantee it's not. Even out of the limited number of the thousands of films that I've seen, there are better films out there. There are better Bond films out there. There are better Bond tunes. There are better Bonds. There are better Bond films. So please stop saying Skyfall is. That's all I want from this video. All I want from this video is just to say, if you're all the right-hand side of stuff and I present the left-hand side of stuff, I just want this video to be something that meets everyone in the middle and they go, you know what?
there is a middle ground here, and it isn't that Skyfall's the best thing ever, and it's not that Skyfall's the worst thing ever. Skyfall was a 50th anniversary movie that had to touch certain bases, and they did it okay. They did it reasonably well, enough that I left the cinema. Great, I got to see the Aston Martin, I got to see Albert Finney, I got to see this, I got to see that. I was happy, you were happy. Fantastic, we were happy. But was it the best thing ever? No. No, not by a long shot. And that's what I have to say.
Fine. Give me your best 5 things. In fact, I'm going to reach over here and pull out something particularly tasteful from a Christmas event I did last week with some friends that involved driving around the countryside and doing trivia. Don't ask, it's a Surrey thing.
It's fine, I'm still listening.
Give me your 5 best things about Skyfall that deserve a full grade award.
Okay, what do you mean a full grade award?
What was good?
Oh,
what
okay.
deserves a big shiny award? What did they do right?
Finney. Aston Martin.
Sorry?
Finney, Aston Martin. More Judi Dench is always good. In fact, I'm sad that we're not going to get more Dench. Filming in London was great. Trying to think now. I liked the use of the Bond theme.
Bastard.
I didn't mind the opening action sequence. I thought the opening action sequence wasn't bad. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. And, you know, for all the VW Beatleness of it all, I put up with that reasonably well, and it didn't anger my loins the way that Casino Royale had. So, yes, that wasn't bad. But but apart from that, I'm having difficulty thinking of anything else. What would you give an award for, sir?
Firstly, the number of hats, although my balance is better. Secondly, I would generally go, part of it I enjoyed, so all in all, a Bond film I pretty much liked, but wasn't worth the hype that it was going on with. So I just keep catching. I'm watching, by the way, if you're not with us, I'm watching John on a big 46-inch plasma widescreen, quite close up, and it's disturbing. It's quite frightening. So, been tough getting through this. I like the future.
It's all falling
you see,
off.
there you go. Ah,
Damn it.
I am so on fire with my balance now. I like the future possibilities. I think Ray Fiennes going to make a good M. I think Ben Whishaw a good Q. I like Q.
I like Q too.
Go on, do that again without me interrupting. Go on, I'll give you like a whole 10 seconds to yourself to do a whole sketch.
I said, I like
Well,
Q
we all enjoyed that. That was all fun.
I said, I like Q
an
too.
inspirational sketch. But, yeah, the staff are good. Q, Moneypenny, and M are going to be good. And hopefully for Craig 4, they're going to do what I wanted them to do for Craig 3.
Paul!
Which is just to take the whole thing seriously.
We want things to be taken
as this image should portray.
very seriously.
Very, very seriously.
We demand seriousness in all ways. If we don't demand absolute seriousness from our Bond, then I don't know who does. If there aren't 2 men on this shiny green and blue globe that demand seriousness at every turn, then it's us.
We couldn't be more serious about the need to be serious.
For seriousness is...
and others that are more serious than serious seriousness.
If I was a rich man.
Lacking stuff in tune that I can stick on my head that isn't breakable.
If I was a rich man. La 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 la.
Damn it.
Well, you've been watching The After Movie Diner discusses Skyfall. It was produced by banging two bits of wood together on a penguin and a shaved little walrus. It was published and produced and things. Splendid. Look at that right there. Marvellous. How you like the Guinness, do you, Mal? How you're a little wee Guinness drinker.
How dare you say anything against it?
I wouldn't dream to say anything against it. You fine, big, rosy-cheeked Irish fella.
I can't do an Irish accent anyway, so I might as well just wear the hat.
Okay, so should we call it a day, sir?
A day, a night, and another discussion. Let's meet in 3 years' time for the next film. Oh, good. I am thirsty. Thank you.
Yes.
And we'll do the drink. Yeah.
You want that? There we go. Good. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Marvelous. I shall put that on later.
Yes.
Excellent.
So, thank you ever so much for watching this special presentation by the After Movie Diner. I will attempt at some point to pop this up on the tube of the Eunice and advertise it on the Book of the Faces and so on and so forth.
To be on the tube of the Eunice.
Yes, it will be exactly there. Wow, 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 wow. It's all very exciting. That was the After Movie Diner presents Skyfall. I hope you had a good time. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Mal's dead. That's the way we're going to end it. Good night.
Okay. Oh dear.